Decades ago, they used to teach in schools a class called civics. And what civics involved basically was education regarding the rights and responsibilities of citizens. And that pretty much is no longer included in the curriculum of schools. And so we are going to be covering many of those issues that should be covered in schools, but are pretty much left out. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator, and what we're going to be covering today is defenses to crime and criminal responsibility. And so we're going to efficiently go over some of the basic understandings that you should have regarding the defenses to crime. And these are some of the things, if you're involved in the legal system, that your attorney may raise in order to defend you or a loved one. And the most foundational things that you need to think about are what are known as the elements. And so there are two primary elements to every crime, and the prosecutor needs to prove both of these elements. And one element is known as the mens rea, and the other element is known as the actus reus. And this simply means that the mens rea is the culpable mental state required to commit the crime. And then actus reus is the volitional behavioral component. So it means the actual action that is required to commit the crime. So the person actually did the act that was required, and then with the mens rea, they had the culpable mental state to commit the act. And it's important to remember that the prosecutor needs to prove both of these elements. If one element is missing, then there is a problem with the prosecution. Okay, now let's go on to some other general crime defenses. One of the defenses frequently raised in today's climate is related to self-defense, and it's the stand your ground, castle doctrine sort of defense, but self-defense is an important defense that is available, and that is usually related to what is known as justification. And so the person isn't saying that they did not do the act, they are simply saying that they had a justification for doing what they did, and that justification then renders the behavior no longer criminal. Another dynamic is the dynamic of something being involuntary, and so that goes back to the actus reus, and so that volitional component that the person intended to behave the way that they behaved. No one just pushed them into someone, and it wasn't an accidental type of thing. And so that issue of volition and voluntariness must be there. Another defense that is sometimes raised is the issue of duress, and this is a person saying that they basically committed the crime, but they did it under a state of duress. They were forced or coerced to do it. This pretty much is only going to work in many instances when you're talking about things that have nothing to do with crimes against persons. And so if it involves actually hurting another human being, this is not particularly a viable defense. And another one is intoxication. And so sometimes in some instances, intoxication can be used as a defense against certain crimes. And finally, we have two additional defenses, and one is mistake and the other is entrapment. And with mistake, it's basically the person believed that what they were doing was legal. For instance, perhaps they quote unquote stole an umbrella, someone else's umbrella, but they reasonably believed that the umbrella was theirs. The umbrellas may have looked alike, and so they pretty much mistakenly took the wrong umbrella from the umbrella stand. And so mistake is also another possible defense. Entrapment is another defense, and entrapment basically involves law enforcement, and it's where law enforcement is involved in encouraging a law-abiding person to engage in criminal activity, someone who would not traditionally be involved in the type of activity that they ultimately find themselves in based upon law enforcement action. And so those are the basic primary defenses to crime. Hoping this information was helpful and informative. If you have specific questions about a specific legal issue for yourself or someone in your life, you are encouraged to seek individual legal counsel. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care and see you soon.